Well, hello, everybody. Well, you're still here.
Welcome to the After Show. This is our final wrap for Not All Diamonds and Rosé.
Yes.
I'm super excited to get into it. I mean, Les, how are you feeling? This big book.
It's bittersweet, I gotta tell you, because I really did enjoy this book, and the book was so thick that I really did carry this book with me everywhere. So when I had a spare moment, I'd read. So I'm gonna kind of miss it.
Absolutely. It feels bittersweet because I think I kind of just loved going wild, talking all things housewives as we're discussing the book, talking about the book plus current housewives and what we're watching. So yeah, I think it's going to be super bittersweet. I'm very excited to hear that the audio is out. I actually think I'll listen to the audio. It's being narrated by Amy Phillips, you guys. So that could be another way to revisit the book if you've been journeying with us via print. But I'm really excited to kind of really break down this book before we share our final thoughts. So again, you guys know the book cover. It's orange. The second you open the book, we have a housewife's timeline in the front, in the back. And even though we've been breaking down all the different franchises, the book actually opens with the formation of Bravo, if that makes sense. So, I mean, first it is, but now we've said it, a who's who of the cast, network execs, and production. So in the book, it has that whole list of just all the people you'll meet in the book. But again, like I said, the book also talks about just Bravo and how it came to be. So it's just very interesting, especially if you've been watching reality TV from, Queer Eye and all these different things to now the Housewife franchise. I just think it's huge.
I started watching Bravo back when they showed operas on Bravo.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And then I remember when Being Bobby Brown started with Bobby Brown and Whitney and Bobby's lawyer, Phaedra Parks.
Lord. So, but those were the days though. So it's just very interesting just how things evolved. So here's a note. I don't think we shared it, or maybe we have, but I don't remember. Andy Cohen wanted the title to just be The Real Housewives. And then when Of Orange County was added, he thought it was a bad idea because they weren't doing cities. It was just, it's a Real Housewives.
Right.
So to kind of see that The Real Housewives and then adding Of Orange County and now to see all these different places evolved, it's kind of prophetic, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, seriously.
And the fact that they decided to use the reunions to kind of really squeeze out all the extra content from the first episode and dive in deep. I mean, the concept of reunions, though, I mean, that for me was mind-blowing.
No, seriously. And I love the fact that initially they weren't paid for that.
I know. It's just the show has evolved so much, but I think the general idea of the beginning was huge. Right. To have the Real Housewives of make it a city, then to actually have reunions. So I think that's super cool. But let's get into the quick recap and the quick breakdown. So the book opens with the Real Housewives of Orange County. One of the first highlights is in the book, and the Real Housewives of Orange County's Meet the Wives. It's page 10. So I'm taking you through the pages and then we'll be sharing our quick thoughts as a quick recap. So again, the first one is the Real Housewives of Orange County. Page 10, Bravo execs almost canned the show when they saw the first rough cuts of the show. Unless you're saying, I remember you mentioning on the episode that that's not odd for them to be like, okay, all these clips are bad. We're probably not going to use it to make a show.
Yeah, that's common, actually.
Then page 46, Vicky Golverson regrets divorcing Don. Listen, we went on about that topic about Vicky regretting her divorce. I mean, it was major for her to admit that in this book. What do you think?
Yeah, I do too, because especially we saw it happen.
Yeah, I know. We watched their marriage just dissolve in front of our eyes. I think it's very important for housewives not to let the show get bigger than them, but also to remember when it's time to leave. Okay, don't wait for a scandal. Don't wait for your marriage to go to shit. You know, just remember to always put your family first. That's my take.
And that's why I think, okay, I don't know how you feel about Kyle Richards, but I think in a way, Kyle Richards is the one who's doing it right. Because A, she's still on the show and she's not going anywhere. It's kind of like, and I hope this doesn't sound bad saying it, it's like she knows her lane and she stays in it.
Kind of. I sometimes feel she's not so happy.
Right.
With her position on the show, not in her life, but on the show. But I will say I'm not a Kyle fan, but I grew to appreciate Kyle because of Girls Trip.
Yes, me too. I was not a Kyle fan until Girls Trip, and now I'm like, okay, she's not bad. Exactly.
So that's what won me over. Another notable thing in the Orange County chapter is on page 51. I remember Les and I discussing the notable housewives that were not cast. They were looking at Vanessa Bryant, Mariel Hemingway, Christy Swanson, just all these possibilities for Orange County. That was super interesting.
And it was so funny because for years, when they've been talking about having a housewife of color, 4 years have been saying, well, they need to get Vanessa Bryant. They need to get Vanessa Bryant. So I didn't know that they actually tried to get Vanessa Bryant. Oh, excuse me. They tried to get Vanessa Bryant, and Vanessa Bryant was the one saying no. So I apologize, Bravo.
I know you've been advocating for her. Okay, next big thing. And this was huge on Orange County at the time. I remember watching this live. The whole Brooks cancer fraud situation and Brooks not having cancer for real. I mean, the way these wives were digging. I mean, they recommended oncologists. They were looking for medical records. I mean, it got wild. But to be fair, Brooks did this to himself, y'all.
But this is what kind of pissed me off. Because the Brooks cancer stuff and the Phaedra Parks candy stuff happened in the same year. Phaedra lost her job, but Vicky kept her job.
Wow.
And I've always thought that wasn't fair. I always thought if Phaedra lost her job, Vicky should lose her job too.
Yeah. Well, in true housewife and Bravo fashion, double standards exist, you know, and things just never go. There are no set rules. And I think that's something that makes it super hard as Bravo viewers to watch. The next big thing in Orange County was what happened in Ireland and the whole van incident. You remember that one, Les?
Yes.
So that was a big one that happened. And then the last, I forgot, I'm supposed to be telling you all the pages. So the notable housewives with Vanessa Bryant and everything, that's page 51. The Brooks cancer situation, that's page 61. The whole Ireland van incident, that's 73. And the last big thing that happened is on page 90, and that's for Orange County. It's Vicky's firing. And just everything that was being recounted on that. I mean, what did you think when they finally let Vicky go?
She stayed too long. Like the show got bigger than her. And I think, you know, and this goes with Kyle staying in her lane. I think where a lot of these housewives kind of mess up is when they think it's their show. You know, Vicky's like, it's my show. Where Ramona from New York, who is a jerk, she I'm sure she says it's her show, but she knows when to back off.
Yeah,
and apologize.
Oh, Ramona knows how to apologize. Oh my gosh. All right, you guys, that's a wrap for the Real Housewives of Orange County. Next up is the Real Housewives of New York. And the first big thing that was worth noting in the book is page 105, the fact that Andy Cohen didn't want to cast Bethany Frankel on the show. And I found it super interesting. He never wanted to cast Bethany, and Bethany turned out to be this really big thing.
Right. And here's the deal. That's another common thing in Hollywood, especially where there's someone who's going to be cast in something and they don't want that person, but it ends up being the best thing for the show. So that's actually common.
Yeah. And on the note of Bethany, and I do have another Bethany reference, but on the note of Bethany, I just want to say, I love what Bethany is doing with Be Strong and being on the ground in Poland and trying to support the Ukrainian effort. I'm not a big Bethany fan, you guys, but I have to give credit where credit's due. And she's always showing up for people. I remember the way she showed up for the Hurricane Maria people as well. So I guess when there's a crisis, B shows up.
Agreed.
And she's showing up. So I just wanted to say that about Bethany right now. But again, the whole thing about why Andy didn't want Bethany on the show, that's on page 105. The next big thing is the Scary Island and everything that happened on Scary Island. That's page 114. Les, what did you think about Scary Island?
Poor Kelly Ben Simone is just deluded.
That's all that needs to be said right now. But it's so true. But another big one, page 136, is Aviva and her leg toss. I mean,
I'm sorry. That's always one of my favorites. It is.
I just think nothing beats that. I'm sorry.
So my mother-in-law lives in the UK, right?
Okay.
And so when I first met her, we were talking and she's like, I like the American Real Housewives. She's like, I watched the show where the woman threw her leg. And I'm like, okay, so this is going to other guys. I'm like, on behalf of America, I'm so sorry that this is your idea of the US, is this.
Just you pop the leg off
right?
Off with it. So funny. Okay, the next big thing in New York. I told you I was going to have another Bethany reference. To be fair, I have two more. But the next one is page 140, which is when Bethany returned to the show that second time. So remember, she was cast for the show. She left the show. Then Bethany returned to the show. And her castmates weren't too pleased.
Nope. They were not happy at all.
They just weren't here for Miss B. So you can read all about that, page 140.
But here's the deal, and I don't know how you feel about this, because
Mm-hmm.
we know that New York is on a hiatus.
Yes.
I wonder if they're going to try to bring Bethany back. If they ever decide to start it up again, I bet they will try to get Bethany to do it. Whether or not she will is a whole different thing. I bet they will try to get her back.
You know what's wild? I think I would like that.
Well, say what you will about her, but this last go round, when she was on the show, she kind of kept them in check.
Yeah. I don't know why. I think maybe Bethany coming now would be really good. And look, anything's possible. I know Bethany has a whole different platform, but if we're getting Sheree back for the third time in Atlanta, y'all, anything's possible.
And I will go on the limb to say that if Bethany was there, I think that shit would have gone down differently with Ebony.
Right. I agree.
Like, I could see Bethany, say what you will about Bethany, and I am not a Bethany fan, but
Same.
I could see Ramona trying her shit and Bethany saying, knock that shit off.
And shut it down. And maybe she would have been a good ally to Ebony.
Yeah. I can see that.
Yeah, I could see it. I could see it. Okay, the next big thing in New York is Carol's epic falling out with Andy Cohen. You can read all about that on page 157. The boat trip from hell on page 156. But I want to stick a pin in this one, page 160, Luann's rehab and arrest. What did you think?
Well, you know, she's lucky she's a white woman.
She really is. She really is. Oh my gosh. One of these days, I'm going to make a pilgrimage for the Patreon to the hotel where Luann was arrested.
But Luann is another one of those who Girls Trip changed my opinion of her.
Oh my gosh.
For the better.
Cool.
For the better.
She was cool. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. She was giving cool vibes and I was here for it.
The thing that I found shocking from Girls Trip was that not only are Luann and Cynthia friends, Cynthia went to her wedding to Tom.
I know. That's crazy. There you go. Housewife crossover. Yeah. But yeah, that was interesting. So here I am with my final Bethany reference, because I'm telling you, Bethany is showing up in this New York part of the book. Page 164, Bethany leaving again. So Bethany leaves Housewives again. And then the last one is about my girl, and I call her my girl because I read her book and I loved it. And it's Dorinda's, her behavioral issues and her dismissal from the show. So I just want to stick a pin and say, Les and I read her book, Made It Nice. We discussed the book from top to bottom. That book is so good. If you're saying to yourself, well, I don't like Dorinda, or I don't want to read a book about Dorinda, I'm telling you, that book is so good. It's a quick read. You're going to be turning the pages. Get Dorinda's book.
And this is going to be kind of scandalous because after thinking about this, I want better for Dorinda, and I don't think I want to see her come back if they have her back. I want better for her.
You know, it's something I've thought about and grappled with for a while too. And I'm thinking maybe she shouldn't return. I know she's doing this girls trip. What is it? The Berkshires at Rome. You know, maybe Dorinda can come back in some other capacity that way.
Yes.
You know, but not the 24/7 filming that they do for the show. But anyway, the chapter ends and kind of wraps up. That's the last major thing. Page 169, all about Dorinda. So that's it for New York. New York's a wrap. The next chapter of the book is Atlanta, The Real Housewives of Atlanta. And the first major thing is the instant stardom of Nene Leakes. You can read all about that, page 179. What do you think of Nene? I mean, I think she's an iconic housewife.
You know, and on the one hand, I'm not much of a Nene fan, but on the other hand, I've got to give her props because she took Housewives and turned it into an acting career. And because of Housewives, she got her own series for a while with Ryan Murphy. She was on Broadway. She did the Zumanity in Vegas. So on the one hand, I don't like her behavior, but on the other hand, I do admire the fact that she became an actualized version of herself and created a career for herself just from Housewives. And you can't take that away.
No. And she had a great book, you guys, Nene as well. The next major thing is page 187, Marlo Hampton on not being a full cast member. Well, you know, the book was written when the book was written, but Marlo will be a full-time housewife.
And I'm so excited. I'm very excited to see how this is going to turn out.
I'm excited. Marlo has been a friend of for a really long time, but she's also a hard-working friend of as well. So she really brings something to the show. I'm very excited to see how she is as this Monty with her nephews. You know, I'm just really interested in seeing that side of her, or seeing more of it, because we got snippets in the last Atlanta. So that will be super interesting. But yes, there's a part of the book talking about Marlo not being a full cast member. Then Big T is page 196, where we get more insight into the Portia Williams Kenya Moore reunion fight.
Yes.
What were your thoughts on that fight when it went down?
Well, you know, I think that's the fight that changed everything.
I think it changed. I think it changed a whole bunch on the franchise as well. And your girl Portia didn't stop there, because on page 205, we get into the whole Candy and Portia falling out.
And once again, Girls Trip, Kenya, because I love how Girls Trip did a lot of these housewives some favors.
No, honestly, I think it was hard to make a villain on that show, because it's a short-term gig. They're chill, they're relaxing, they're not worrying about building storylines and living their lives. They're just here on this island for a couple of days. So for me, I think we just kind of got to see them more organically. And I'm here for shows like that, where we maybe that's what Dorinda needs to do. Right. Get her on these shows where it's kind of situational, locational, you know, and it's just very little and not too much. So but I want to add that watching Portia's Family Matters just made me.
See, I didn't watch it, but I heard that she was a disaster.
Oh my God, it was beyond disaster. I mean, that's down in the gutter, never to return. I mean, it was bad, right? It was so bad. She was the villain on her own show. I know in her mind, she was probably going to make Dennis and his mom the villain, but no, she was the villain. So for me, seeing her in that moment kind of solidifies some things I've been thinking about Portia. So now I look at the whole Candy situation and Kenya situation a lot differently. And also on that note, the next major thing out of Atlanta is page 207, which is the Phaedra Parks of it all and her dismissal from the show. And I have to say, I've been seeing throughout the fandom that the housewife that they want to return to kind of have her redemption season is Miss Phaedra Parks.
So you guys can't see this, but I'm raising my hand. Guilty. Because no. I would love to see Phaedra come back and get a redemption and straighten it all out.
Because I just watched on, Watch What Happens Live. They had the two girls from Bitch Sesh. And when they were asked, what's that housewife? You want to come back on the show, kind of have that redemption? It's Phaedra. And I've seen so many people on the fandom saying it's time. So many people who are prominent, recappers and just this lovers of all things Bravo, they all say it's time.
Here's some tea.
Okay.
Here's some behind the scenes tea. So I know someone who knows someone who knows someone who's involved with Girls Trip 2.
Mm-hmm.
And this person said that the person who got along with everyone and was the best liked and who had no issues with anybody was Phaedra Parks.
So hold on. Do we have a cast list?
Yes, it is.
I don't know. Who's
You didn't know? Oh my God, you don't know? It's like someone nicknamed this Girls Trip 2 Girls Trip villains because it's Jill Zarin, Phaedra Parks, I think Brandy, Glanville, Tamra, Vicky, Eva, Dorinda, of course.
And Phaedra?
And Phaedra.
That's a lot of women, man.
And I think there's someone else. But no, the cast is in place. It's coming out in a couple of months. Wow. And so I heard like a lot of fights went on, like a lot of fights, but Phaedra Parks was the one person who got along with everyone.
Well, she's a Southern Belle. So I loved her Southern Belle act. I'm not gonna lie, but
I loved her.
Yeah. She's
I was
good for the show.
disappointed. I was disappointed
Yeah,
when
she
that
fucked
stuff went
up. Look,
down.
she fucked up. But if she's going to get a redemption, I'm going to say, yeah, now's a pretty good time.
And I want to see, because I love her little cute little kids, and I want to see how
Oh,
they.
she has gorgeous. Yeah,
Because they're probably what, like teen? One of them probably like a teenager
10.
now, 12,
Yeah.
11, 12.
Mm-hmm. I'm here. I think Phaedra would make good TV. And the last thing in Atlanta is page 219. And it's Nene's tumultuous departure, accusations of racism, the whole cast reacting to the Nene of it all, and Andy kind of sharing his thoughts about all of that.
And by the way, Nene did not do an interview for the book.
Yes, it should be noted, Nene did not talk about it. But
which is too bad. I think.
I wish she did, because it would be nice to get her point of view of it. But I will say this. I know a lot of people were raising their eyebrows at what Nene was saying, but with everything that has transpired now,
right.
I think, it's worth looking at what Nene was saying back then. So anyways, if you want to read more about the Nene of it all, page 219. The next chapter is a Real Housewives of New Jersey, which is on right now. And the main I have a few pointers from Jersey, and one of the pointers is page 225, where it talks about the formation of the show and the cast. No, I'm sorry, 225 talks about the formation of the show and the cast. Then page 235 gets into the table flip, which it seems to be the most iconic thing. So I guess I want to know in the comments, you guys, is the table flip an iconic Bravo moment, as in the actual table flip? Or was it kind of just the situation and everything surrounding it?
Now, the thing that I found interesting, first of all, was the fact that Carlos King, who was Nene's producer, was also Teresa's producer.
Yes.
I found that very interesting. And I found the fact that they wanted it to kind of focus around Dina. I found that interesting too.
Yeah. Wow. That's awesome. I just, I didn't even realize all that. So that makes sense. Next on Jersey is page 247, which is when Teresa pushed Andy on the reunion. Like, she bulldozed her way through that, man. Andy shares about that there. Then page 258 is a big juicy tea, which is when the cast members were arrested in the Dominican Republic.
Yes.
That was just crazy to me that no one talked about it. It never made the show. But because we discussed this in the episode, but when you find out like just the situation and the circumstances that, caused that to happen, I'm kind of like, good for you for standing up.
And so I thought it was, and so the other thing I found funny was when we were talking to Dave on the podcast, and Dave was saying that nobody would talk to him about it, and he had to get Andy Cohen to tell them that they that they had permission to talk about it, for them to talk about it.
Wow. I still can't believe, again, in reality world where everyone's tuned into everything. People are searching socials. People are finding people. Families are talking. Random people on the street are talking and taking pictures and videos. I'm just still surprised this didn't happen. But the last major thing that happened in Jersey that we're talking about in the book, which was like one of the biggest, most pivotal things that happened on that show, was when Teresa and Joe got arrested. They did their consecutive jail times. And then obviously Joe being deported. So you can read all about that on page 275. That was a crazy moment. And again, that's how they value Teresa, even though she's kind of like the villain and Teresa can never get a break. I was really thinking about it. Every season, Teresa can't catch a break.
But on Girls Trip, she was lovely.
I mean, girls trip, she was able to relax.
She was lovely.
Yeah, because she was able to relax. But I feel like Teresa's always on and people are always trying to go get her. So she's different on actual Jersey. And now they're kind of going after her and Louis right now. You know, It's very interesting.
See, Louis strikes me as a powder keg. I wouldn't mess with him.
You know, I had preconceived notions about Louis, you know, thinking back to last summer when the video of him leaked and we were all talking about it on social. And you guys, I was deep in the Clubhouse streets and Louis's ex, the one in the wedding dress, I kid you not, would pop up in these rooms with us.
Yes.
And she would go on. And I got to ask her a few questions. You know, I think something's not right with her upstairs, but that's just my opinion. And I had
she was associated with someone else who's not right upstairs, who I'll talk about after we go off mic.
Yeah, but all I'm gonna say is something just never sat right with me. But I was looking at Louis sideways and seeing Louis on the show now, I'm like, maybe I should reserve my judgment. Do I still think it's weird as hell, the video and everything surrounding it? Sure. But, you know, I'm going to wait to see. But yeah, so that's it for Jersey. Now we're recapping Beverly Hills. Now, the big thing on Beverly Hills, you can find on page 310, and I think this is very important, you guys, and it's how the E network, like, you know, E, where you had Keeping Up with the Kardashians, that network, right? So how E's competitive offer to produce a Richards Sisters reality show pushed Bravo to then offer Kyle and Kim Beverly Hills and give them a spot and make that, you know, a show. And it's only because E was thinking of doing a Richards Sisters special.
Which I thought was so interesting, because I didn't think the Richards Sisters were on anybody's radar.
Well, clearly they were on E's and Bravo was like, we want them. So you can read all about that on page 310. Another big thing of Beverly Hills, because when you really think about Beverly Hills and OG Beverly Hills, you have to mention Camille Grammer.
Yes.
So on page 321, and I know Camille's a villain, and I know Camille, you know, she's kind of crazy too. But on page 321, that's when the book really gets into Camille discovering her husband's affair. And I have to say, y'all, I felt sorry for her. Like, I'm reading this shit and I'm like, damn.
Yeah, no, that was cold-blooded how he did it.
Yeah, you know, that guy's on a whole nother level of crazy. Okay, another big thing, page 338, Brandy Glanville spilling the beans about Adrian and Paul's surrogate.
See, that's fucked up. That's fucked up.
I'm sorry. That to me was crossing the line, but I think they really wanted to shame her. And that's where I just have like this problem. I'm just like, no, that's not cool. Also in the book, page 348, if you guys remember this glass shattering fight between Lisa Rinna and Kim Richards, you can read all about that there. But the one part I want to stick a pin in to hear what you think, Les, is on page 352 about Lisa Vanderpump producing Rinna into mentioning that one word that was basically the title for season 6, which was Munchausen.
Munchausen. Well, you know, Lisa Vanderpump, for the longest time, and it worked in her favor, she was the puppeteer. And you got to admit, I don't know how you felt about this, but I remember in real time watching these seasons and they would try to blame Vanderpump and I would be like, oh, come on. Lisa would never do anything like that. Oh, come on. And they were right.
I know, it's crazy, but yeah, I think Lisa's been doing some shit.
She was like this evil genius because her, and so true story, I know people who work in a couple of the restaurants and she's allegedly not nice.
I believe that. See, yeah, I believe that 100%. I get that vibe from her. I do. I do.
Mhm.
So that doesn't surprise me. The next big thing is page 360, which is concrete evidence about Teddy and Dorit that they were given the same call time. There were confirmation emails. There was a call sheet and everything to prove that Teddy said we were supposed to meet at this time. And Dorit was saying, oh, no, I thought it
And
was that time.
I gotta tell you,
Yeah.
Teddy is so boring. I don't blame Dorit for being late.
Blame Dorit for being late.
Poor
All I'm
Dorit.
gonna say, I don't think Teddy should do reality TV. She should just leave it alone. But I will say, the girl didn't lie, at least not in this instance. Dorit was just late, but I guess Dorit was busy trying to.
Well, like, think about it. But think about it for a second, Victoria. Oh my God, I gotta go spend time one-on-one with Teddy.
She was not looking forward to it at all, and I don't blame her. I don't blame her at all. The last thing that we're going to recount from Beverly Hills is on page 368. And this is where the book starts to get into details about all the behind the scenes stuff that was going on with Brandy when she revealed her alleged affair with Denise. That's where that ends. What did you think about the Brandy and Denise of it all?
Okay, so this is complicated because I do believe something happened.
Okay.
But I believe that Brandy is an asshole for trying to use this to try to get back on the show.
Right. Yeah.
And I love the fact that Denise shut it down by doing the cease and desist, because then that blocked Brandy, you know, that blocked her for coming back on the show. Because I think that if they would have gone through with that reunion, that would have been Brandy's entree back to the show. Yeah,
I agree for sure. Well, you guys, that's it for Beverly Hills. And guess what? I realized something. I skipped over DC because, that's such a short chapter, because DC actually comes before Beverly Hills. And no shade to DC, but it was that one season. I think it was really good. It's just a couple pages. It's honestly 1, 2, 3, 4 pages.
Nobody did an interview except for Mary Amos.
Yeah, that was it. So it was kind of really hard to cover things here.
And wasn't this the one that Dave said that he couldn't find some of the people? He couldn't find people, but instead what he got for the book were the actual 2 reporters who are columnists for reliable sources, Roxanne and Amy. They were the reporters that kind of broke the news about the crash at the White House party with, what's that couple's name again? The Sahelis. Yes. Mikhail and Tarek. Yes.
Yes. So that's really the main thing with the DC situation, and the fact that the FBI subpoenaed the raw tapes. You know, they knew there was no way that show was going back. So basically the DC franchise lasted 1 season. It made headlines, like actual news, because the Sahelis and their infamous White House party crashing, that, you know, in their heads, they're saying, oh, we had an invitation to the White House to go to the state dinner, but it's really looking like y'all didn't. So the sad part, though, is that they did get off scot-free. So there was that. So DC just kind of had its 11 episode. It was a 1 season. That was it. And the fact that the FBI wanted to subpoena tapes, that was kind of dead in the grave. So that's it for DC. Not much else to share there. Next up is the Real Housewives of Miami. I'm loving Miami. I love the
I am too. This week is the reunion, I think.
It is. So
I love them.
Same. I'm looking forward to the reunion. But as it relates to the book, the real big thing that I would say that happened in that franchise that was just really, really, really big was on page 385, which was a feud between Anna and Leah Black, when Anna brought a whole folder of dirt on Leah. And then obviously the legal reasons why Leah couldn't say anything back. So I just want to say, when everyone was talking about Monique and her binder, Anna came with a hella folder before. So that one new, but I just wanted to mention that. And also in the book is on page 390 is when the Real Housewives of Miami knew that after season 3, there wasn't going to be a season 4, but I'm happy to report that season 4 is now on Peacock. So,
and it is outstanding. That's an example of taking a little time off helps sometimes.
Yeah, and I mean, when it comes to Miami, my thing has always been, I think Miami was ahead of its time, but I'm super happy it's on television now, and I'm super happy people are loving it. After Miami, it's the Real Housewives of Potomac. Yes. And I love Potomac. And on page 395, the big thing is Robin Dixon's season 1 off-camera freakout when Ashley Darby discussed Juan's finances.
Yes.
That was a big thing on the season. I mean, what did you think about that? Was it really that big of a deal?
Well, I mean, I could see, though, from Robin's standpoint, because it's, it's kind of embarrassing.
It's embarrassing. It's personal. But we also discover in the book that Robin said she told producers that was a topic that was off limits, Juan and finances. But for some reason, Ashley brought it up. I think a producer, Birdie, whispered something in Ashley's ear and Ashley ran with it, honestly.
Okay, so after we had this episode, I have a friend who used to be who worked on a reality show. I'll say what it is, because I'm not saying the person's name, The Bachelor.
Okay.
And so on The Bachelor, my friend was telling me how they would get in the contestant's ear and say things like, wow, she said you were a bitch. If I were you, I would go tell her what I think, and would get them riled up. So I have no doubt in my mind that producers were like, Ashley, we need you to ask this. And it's really important, and if I were you, I want to know. Like, I could totally see that.
Yeah, absolutely. Makes sense. The next big thing in Potomac is page 410. And it's the Michael Darby of it all and his butt groping allegations. Again, most of the housewives kind of legal and drama tends to happen off screen, but then the legal makes the show. In this instance, it happened on the show. It happened during filming and it became illegal. So it's a Michael Darby of it all. We talk about it in detail, but if you want to go straight to it, it's page 410. And the last thing of Potomac was that fight between Candice and Monique. So if you go to page 414, you can read about the physical fight. You can get more information on the legal back and forth on page 418. And why Monique left the show ends the chapter at page 420. So that's it for Potomac. And then the last franchise, which we actually just got done discussing, you guys, is Dallas. But I'm going to do a quick recap here. Page 423 talks about the origins of the show and the fact that it was supposed to be charity wives, which is why the first season focuses heavily on charities. Page 437 is the story behind Leanne Loughlin's infamous hot mic situation where they're not knives, they're just hands. And the last one is a never before seen season 3 battle between Leanne and Deandra, which you can find on page 441. And that's it for Dallas. And I'm going to ask the question here again. Do you think Dallas is going to come back?
Yeah, that is. And listeners, let us know. Like I said on the episode, I think if it does, I could see them keeping maybe Deandra, maybe Tiffany Moon, and kind of restructuring around that.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. So those are all the franchises covered in the book. There's also a section where you can find the tagline catalog, and the tagline catalog is by wives and all the taglines they've used over the years, according to franchises. So you'll have the franchise, and then you'll have the wife, and then you'll have all the taglines they've used. And after, you'll get the taglines, there's a quick little author's note. There's some photo credits, because throughout the book, there are quite a few photos. So that's also super cool. And that's it. It's one big fat recap of Not All Diamonds and Rosé. I gave you all the page numbers. I hit all the high notes. So now, in closing, Les, what are your final thoughts on the book?
First of all, this truly was a good book, and I really honestly enjoyed it. I do wish that I do wish that we would have had chapters on like Salt Lake City and Tiffany Moon and Ebony, and I hope that he gets a sequel.
I would love to see a follow-up companion, or, it doesn't even have to be as in-depth, but just a follow-up companion, because if you tune into our episode with Dave, you'd realize that the publishing of this book was just kind of very rushed. It was just like crunch time. They had to get it here and now. So I'd love to see a companion, and then maybe in another couple of years, maybe 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, who knows, but have another book kind of like this, because I think it is history.
Yeah. And it was good. It was good because I do have to say, for this book being sanctioned by Andy Cohen, I actually was impressed and surprised that they went there.
I think they had no choice but to go there, because there have been numerous books written about the housewives out there, giving points of view about the show and whatever, and the wives, and just, everything that's visible. So in order for this to work, I think, they've really had to dig deep. They've really had to give us the tea. They had to speak about things that were never spoken about before. They had to get, insight from producers, and just as much as they possibly could. So I think under normal circumstances, we would never get this kind of information. But to make the book a success, I think they realized, looking at the market, they needed to do it. Mm-hmm. My final thoughts is, I think it was a good book. I will admit, it's not an easy read for the average person.
No.
Because it's not narrative storytelling. It's legit oral history, which means it's interviews, it's snippets, you have a few bits tying things together. But I can acknowledge it's not the easiest read. You have to be so obsessed, you kind of want to get all the information. But again, we gave you the cliff notes here, so you can get the juicy stuff and then get sucked into reading more, because that's the trick. Once you get going, you'll get sucked in. Yeah. So yes, we have all books, we have hardbacks. You're hearing us hitting them. Yes. So I think it's lights out on Not All Diamonds and Rosé. It's been great. Thank you so much for listening. Again, the fact you're listening to this long ass rant, it means you're a Patreon member. So just know we appreciate you and we support you. And as a quick reminder, our next book is Caviar Dreams, Tuna on a Tuna Fish Budget, How to Survive in Business and Life by Margaret Joseph.
Oh my God, it's so skinny.
I know. So you guys, this book is going to be a breeze in comparison, right? Les is laughing because I'm showing him the book. But no, this is going to be a breeze. This is a 255-page book.
Oh, 250 pages.
Fraction. It's
please.
Fraction.
That's a snack. That's an appetizer. 250 pages.
No, I agree. It's 20 chapters, you guys.
20 chapters, whatever.
It's fair to say we'll cover this book in 4 episodes. We'll do 5 chapters per episode, to kind of, stringing you along. But yeah, it's going to be an easy breeze. So we're reading Margaret Joseph's only because we have the books already. But also, Jersey is on right now. Jersey is on, and I think it's going to be a fiery conversation with Les and I. But again, just want to thank you for supporting us on Patreon for sure.
Thank you.
And it's going to be a great time. So until next after show, talk soon.
Keep reading.
Bye.
Bye.